Brock Purdy is going to miss the next 2 to 5 games, or he might be back against the Cardinals in a week. We'll talk about it. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast, part of the Pro Football Insiders. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. It is Thursday. I'm with Johnny Dale from the Johnny Dale Football Academy. Johnny, crazy things happening in 49ers land after just one game.
Yeah, we talked all preseason about how the 49ers need to stay healthy, how they needed to get healthy, and sure enough, the first football-related activities that the team has in the regular season, they come out with 4 injuries to starters. 2 of them being potentially mid-long term. And we know how this goes, right? Even if Brock is able to come back against Cardinals, it's going to be something that lingers. It's going to affect play. It's going to have an impact on the field. How many times do you get to the end of the season, they say, well, everybody's dealing with something at this point of the year. And then you get to the end of the year and it was, well, this actually significantly hampered what we were trying to do. And we were trying to mask this for a long time. And we didn't know in 2023 that Brock was still only feeling about 80% of his arm until November, until the offseason. So it becomes, it's not something until it's something, unless you're in 49ers land, and then it's most of the time it is something until it's not something.
Right. And so we got the report this morning from Ian Rappaport that said, hey, Brock is going to be out anywhere from 2 to 5 weeks. And, that obviously is a bummer to hear. Then John Lynch went on KNBR and said this.
I talked to, obviously, our trainer, our doctor, Dr. Anderson, who's the preeminent foot and ankle specialist in the NFL, and what we're dealing with is like kind of a week-to-week thing. So that's our information. Brock's doing well, coming back from it, and we'll just treat it as such. He's doing a nice job, doing everything he can to get back out there as soon as possible, and so that's where we're at.
So that was a slightly more sunny read on things from John Lynch. Now, is he trying to just, throw doubt so that coaches don't know which quarterback to prepare for? I don't know. I don't know that there's that much of a difference between Brock Purdy and Mac Jones, quite frankly. But what do you believe? Do you believe the 2 to 5 week window, or do you believe the week to week window, Johnny?
I don't even know what to believe anymore. I mean, especially with what happened with Christian McCaffrey at the end of the week last week. That seemed like the 49ers are being a little too obvious with their trying to overplay the injury with Christian McCaffrey by allowing him to do everything that you can do on a calf to test a calf while the reporters were out there, and then did not participate in practice. I don't know how that works, that you can be out there for warm-ups on a side field exercising for 15 minutes, but then you're listed as a did not practice. Clearly, there was an effort there to mess with Mike McDonald, and the Seahawks won't know exactly what kind of impact that had, but they're going to muddy the waters as much as they can for your opponent. They're also going to not outright say, well, we're screwed, and do that either. I don't know. It's hard to really gauge anything, especially when it comes to Kyle. I mean, Kyle, when he was asked about Christian McCaffrey, he was surprised that he didn't know the difference between arthritis and tendonitis. He was like, yeah, I mean, they're not the same. Like, he really just gets the feeling of a guy that does not care about the injury report until it is handed to him 30 seconds before he walks out there, and he looks down and he reads it, and he's like, okay, just tell me, can they play or not? And somebody tries to explain to him, and he really just only wants to hear the most important bits and then moves on. And is like, all right, whatever, I got to move on. And that's what it feels like. And so half the time, you don't even know if Kyle really understands what he's saying.
Or just, he irritates the hell out of me with that. Like, he didn't know if it was turf toe when he talked about it on Monday. He was like, oh, it just says toe. Oh, really, dude? You don't know? You're $50 million quarterback and you don't know what his actual injury is? That's not important. Like, it's just irritating. Like, dude, if you just don't want to say, don't say. but like, don't tell me you don't know, right? Oh, I don't know the difference between arthritis and tendonitis. I didn't know. Really? You didn't know? What have you been to like 5th grade? Like, come on. Like, it's really irritating, but whatever. We'll see what happens with Brock Purdy. John Lynch said that basically it's all but confirmed that Mac Jones is going to play this week, so we'll see. But one of the things we like to do on this show is take a look at the film and break things down from the perspective of someone that knows what they're talking about, which is why Johnny is here, quite frankly. So we're going to get to Brock Purdy's performance against the Seahawks in a minute after this word from Sleeper.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using code GSPE. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
When I think back to Brock Purdy against the Seahawks, now knowing that he was playing with a busted up toe and a busted up shoulder, Johnny, I can't help but come away more impressed with what we saw. You know, I give Brock a little bit of grace and say, you know what? This is better than I thought when I initially watched it on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think this will be really interesting because we're gonna see. I think it's gonna take really about another 4 to 5 weeks to understand, how good is this Seattle defense. We're gonna have to see how good is it in retrospect. You're not gonna know from the very first game of the year. I remember it really reminds me, and the way that this whole game went really reminded me, ironically, of the last time we played Sam Darnold, which was the Minnesota Vikings game last year, which was the second game of the year last year. It was a gritty game. It was a very unpolished game, a lot of mistakes, going against a defensive coordinator throwing a lot of new wrinkles at you, doing a lot of different things. And I remember coming out of that game, it was like, man, Brock really struggled in that game. That wasn't a great game. And then on the other side of it, once you got about 6 weeks down in the year and you saw how every other quarterback had done against that defense, including Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love and CJ Stroud and then Jared Goff, you kind of in retrospect looked at it and went, actually, Brock's performance looks really not bad at all, because he was the best out of all that group against that defense, because we started to see how good that defense is. I don't know if Seattle's going to be that or not, because the stat line for Brock between these two matchups, between those two games, is very, very similar. And so I don't know how we're going to look at it, but it's going to take a number of weeks. If I remember, I believe it was CJ Stroud who went in the very next week against that Houston or that Vikings defense. And, everybody was really high on CJ Stroud, and he was 20 of 31 for 215 yards and threw 2 picks. And Brock was like 260, something like that. Or we had about 300 yards passing as a team in that game, and go, okay, actually his performance looks a lot better in that sort of retrospect. So that's what I wonder about this game. You go, okay, guy was playing with a toe injury from fairly early in the second quarter. And I actually have the play where he hurt his toe, according to one Kyle Shanahan. What happened here, that we're trying to hit Jennings on a little in route here. We're gonna have Ricky it's Ricky tight end on another in route, and we're gonna bring Russell Gage across. And pretty quickly, Brock sees this. He doesn't like that they're jumping on these routes. He wants to throw it to Jennings. He sees the guy's jumping, and he's going to pull it down and take off. And so he takes off, and Julian Love comes and tackles him on the sideline. And from the end zone view, you can see his foot kind of folds a little bit awkwardly. His toe gets trapped underneath him. Looks like his right toe or his right foot. Don't know which toe it is, assuming it's the big toe. That's usually the one that gets it. You see it gets trapped under here. And then it'll get bent a little awkwardly. So this happened in the second quarter. So most of the game was played on that foot. So a lot of it does have to be put in that perspective.
Ouch. And by the way, that's not like I see so many people saying, oh, Brock's hurt because of the offensive line. Like, it's not the offensive line's fault. Brock got hurt because people get hurt playing football. I continue to tell people there is no offensive line that prevents all quarterback injuries. Like, yeah, this stinks. I get it. And we want someone to blame. It's football, man. There's no one to blame. It just stinks, unfortunately.
100%. And we hate hearing that because you start to feel a little helpless in it, like, well, this is just happening to me and I can't do anything about it.
Right.
And it sucks to feel that way. You want to feel like, okay, we can do something about this, but sometimes that's just a football play. You can't really blame the offensive line for that one. The protection was there. Brock is doing what we've seen him do so many times, and that's get the extra yards when they're there, when the receivers are covered. So, yeah, we want to blame the offensive line. I don't necessarily blame the offensive line totally for these injuries coming out of this game. I know that's a really popular take right now. You got to invest in the O-line. I get that, but I don't see that right now, and we'll see that when the shoulder injury play comes up. But I just want to show that one as the beginning, and then we will roll from here. This is on the very first drive. Because
look at you drawing all over the screen so we don't get demonetized. It's not going to work. This is the demonetization station, baby.
I'm trying. Plus, it'll streamline some things so I don't ramble as much. But this is first drive against the Seahawks, and so you'd asked, let's look at the good and the bad. And so there was really good Brock in this game. There was some Brock, what are you doing in this game? So we're gonna look at all of it. This is an example of when Brock is at his absolute best. There's going to be a number of these plays in the game where you go, yes, this is the 53 or 55, whatever it was, $250+ million quarterback that they signed. We're running a play here. It's called blind. It's a blind concept where you have a deep post. It's really a deep through route with what's called a stick china, where you're going to have Jennings break out, and then he's going to run back in, and then Christian McCaffrey is going to come and sit over the middle. Seattle is going to be in Tampa 2 zone here, so normally you're going to have Ernest Jones as the Mike. He's got to carry this route deep down the middle of the field. And so what you're trying to do as an offense is put the two underneath defenders in a triangle stretch. I know that's a horrible triangle, but I do my best. Is that you're going to read this through the triangle. First, you're going to read, and this is more of key read, so it's not necessarily a pure progression read. There is differences. You're going to read the Mike first, and then you're going to read the hook. So if the Mike carries deep, then you read the hook horizontally. So you first read the Mike vertically, and then you read the hook horizontally, if that makes sense. So you're seeing, does he carry that route deep down the middle of the field? If he does, then you work to in-out on really outside in from Jennings to McCaffrey against the hook. Who does he take? This is also the impact of one Christian McCaffrey. So Brock's going to drop back, and he's reading the Mike, who is turned, and he's shading this side. Okay, we got that. But when you have a Christian McCaffrey, look how quickly his head whips around. And he's going to flip his hips. That is, I've got to get eyes on McCaffrey. This is 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 that they're in. So this is 3rd and long, and he is already flipping his head and locating one Christian McCaffrey because he says, I know this guy cannot get the ball in space here. This is a first down. I can't give that up. So Brock is reading that, and this is the moment where he's decided, I'm throwing this ball down to Ricky this early. So you're going to see this is in slow-mo. So boom, there's the throwing motion. So we know that was the frame that he made the decision on. And he's throwing this ball out to Ricky way out here. When you talk about A+++ in anticipation, this is what we're talking about. The moment he sees that Mike's hips flip and square up, he's pulling the trigger to Ricky and delivers an absolutely dime of a throw right down the middle. That is Brock at his best because you don't need this massive window to be open and rifle that ball in there. The anticipation of reading everything is so quick and fast that it gets you to the right answer at the right place. That is Brock at his best. You didn't always have that in this game. That doesn't mean – I always look at quarterbacks like what's the hit rate? Like I don't expect it every play, but what's your hit rate? If your hit rate is overwhelmingly positive, that's overwhelmingly positive.
I can't disagree with anything. I mean, it was beautiful. He hits Ricky in stride when he starts to throw before Ricky even makes his break. It was perfect by Brock Purdy. Now, that was pre-toe injury, pre-shoulder injury. So, let's put that in the proper perspective. But yes, lots to love there. That was when the offense was functioning the way it was built, right? McCaffrey sucks up coverage, opens something up for somebody else, and Brock instantly diagnoses it and takes advantage.
Is somebody really calling Bob Ross in
Heineman
the
on
comments?
Twitch. I love the Twitch comments. Heineman says Johnny greater than Bob Ross. Brisbee Life on Twitch said they should be put in the art category. The stream should be in the art category on Twitch.
All right. So what we're going to have is a happy little play fake here, and then it needs a friend. And so we're going to draw in a little drift route right here if I do my best Bob Ross. We're running, this is classic 49ers Shanahan play action with a hard drift fake. Okay, so Seattle ends up, they cover this well. They know these things are coming. These guys are on it. They're ready to jump. So Brock's going to look for the drift. It's not there. That is these guys are all sitting there. So now he's going to try and check it down. Okay, you got Brian Robinson who's going to hook, and then he's going to run away into the open zone. This is where Brock makes you kind of go, but why? Like, he's going to sit here, and he's got a way to escape or make a throw. There's no pressure around him, and he's going to jump and throw. And it's almost picked off. Those are the moments when you're like, Brock, I love you, man, but nah. Like,
why?
That ain't it. That ain't it. Like, no.
Why are you so extra right now, bro? Just throw it or run. But like doing this weird stuff, and he does that jump throw. He's done that a couple of times, and it's never worked out. It's always like, what are you doing? Like, stop, man. Keep your feet on the ground. You're not Josh Allen. You're not one of these guys. Just be you.
Well, I don't even care if it's Josh Allen. Josh Allen jumps like that and throws. It's probably not going to be a very accurate pass. Like, yeah, and at least Josh doesn't even attempt those kind of, like, he's going to have his feet on the ground when he makes his throws most of the time. So those ones make me pull my hair out a little bit. And I love Brock as much as anybody. But here, so there's really amazing Brock. There's why Brock, and then there's really amazing Brock again. So we're running a little play action fake here. We're running a double in concept, and Seattle's going to be in man coverage here, and this is where again the A plus anticipation. So you got George Kittle coming across, and he's going to have a guy in man, and then Seattle is sitting here with a lurk defender. And they're going to have a safety in the middle of the field over here, and they're coming down with a safety on McCaffrey. And again, the A plus anticipation. So he's right here. He's about to pull the trigger, trying to get it. So he's just started his throwing motion. And this, I mean, if you look at this and screenshot that, you say, what are you throwing into? Like, that guy is not open. But what he's reading is the mic is flat-footed. And he's been drifting a little bit. So he's going to see, I got a window for George that's going to break. And the safety's not close enough to really get there. It's a tight window. It's going to be a bang-bang play. But you moved everybody enough that George is going to be there. And he's going to put this ball with pressure in his face right where it has to be, right when it has to be. And so, those are the moments. Again, that A plus anticipation, the ability to get to the right spot at the right time is just what he's so good at.
And I think that's why when Brock does throw interceptions, sometimes they can look so bad, because in order to throw with this much anticipation, you have to take a snapshot of what you see on the field and then anticipate what is going to happen after that and decide what you're going to do all in, the blink of an eye. And when it works out, like it did with Pearsall earlier, or like that throw you just showed, you're like, wow, great, that's fantastic. When it doesn't work out, sometimes you see the ball go somewhere else and you're like, what the hell are you doing? And it's like, well, the reason is because when he has to make this decision, things look different. And that's why it can be frustrating, but that is both the good and the bad that comes with Brock.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of trust in your receivers, a lot of trust that they're going to be exactly where you're expecting them to be when you expect them to be there. It puts a lot of onus on them to hold up their end of the bargain. So here it's another example. We're moving George Kittle around. You don't see a ton of back and forth movement. He's trying to get a gauge on this safety. They're trying to see, how does this safety react? Does he come way in? Does he come way out? Does he come down? We want to see this. Is this going to be cover 2? Is it going to be cover 4? Is it going to be man? We're trying to get a gauge on him. And so right before the snap, you're going to see this guy take a couple steps down. And that's going to indicate the man coverage here. So we have Jennings on what's called a rub corner. So he's going to run a little rub corner route, and then Kittle's going to come out, and he's running a choice route. So this is it can be an in or out breaker. The idea is you're going to create interference. You're most likely being an out breaking throw. And so when you see this happen, Brock knows his eyes are right there at that safety. He sees it. All right, going to George Kittle. He's made up his mind at the snap. Like, I don't need to see anything else. And so there's the throw happening way early as George is going to break. The safety had to work over the interference. So the ball's there. There's the throw. And that's where they make it look so easy. When those guys are all on the same page and they do it and Brock can see it and he can make that throw, man, it looks really beautiful and really hard to stop.
I love a couple of different things on that. I love the way Kittle, right at the snap, kind of sneaks in behind, I think it's Juwan who was there, just to make it that much more difficult for the defensive back. And the coverage is not even that bad, but George does exactly what Brock expects he's going to do, and Brock puts the throw in the exact perfect area. And there's nothing you can do in that short of space on the field to stop that. And that's why I loved it too, because it was designed look for Kittle in the red zone. It was easy. And we hadn't seen a lot of easy red zone touchdowns from the 49ers, especially last year. So it was nice to see right off the bat from the Niners.
100%, and having that high level execution. And if you go back to the first meeting with Seattle last year, George Kittle had 2 touchdowns in the red zone, and then we really struggled scoring touchdowns in the red zone the second meeting, and you didn't have George. So, you text me during the game. You're like, seeing that George was out, you're like, knowing George is out, I'm going back to your video, and it's really stressing me out. And it was for me too. And we saw it was very much the same game. The difference was that the defense stopped Seattle's quarterback at the end of the game. Otherwise, it would have been the same score, 20-17. Like that was the difference in the game, was that you had a Nick Bosa. But here, Seattle, they're coming with this heavy pressure look. They're showing man coverage. So you're going to think, okay, we got man, but Seattle's going to end up backing out into cover 3 zone here. Good job by Mike McDonald and this defense of disguising what they're trying to do. Brock has what's called a curl flat concept down here. So you got a curl with Ricky Pearsall and then a stick route with Juwan Jennings. He's going to sit this down or run it out. And so Brock's, I think there's an unsureness if Jennings is going to sit this down or run this away. And so Jennings is going to run it away and it's open, but Brock moves on. And this is part of what happens when you aren't practicing for 3 weeks, because he's looking down here. You're going to see him read this, and you're going to see this breaks out. You can see that Seattle's dropped into this zone, right? So all these guys are doing zone drops. You got that cover 3 zone. He's looking out there. What Brock's going to see is some initial inside leverage by the defender, and so he's going to end up trying to move on. But again, Jennings is a contested catch guy. He's not a separator, and so you got to understand he's going to probably get this open, but he ends up winning. He leans in and wins on the route. It's there. You wish he'd hung on it just a little bit longer, but Brock's already running away from what he perceives as pressure as he's trying to get out there. He could check it down to McCaffrey pretty early. They're in his zone, but he starts trying to do what he does, and then he gets planted, throwing the ball out of bounds. And
I put that on Brock, or not on Brock. I'm sorry, on Juwan. Did you see how late Juwan Jennings was getting off the line of scrimmage on that play? Kyle talked about it, and Brock talked about how it's not just about getting open. You got to get open on my time, on the timing of the play. And look at Juwan. He doesn't come out of his break. Pearsall's already finished the curl, and Juwan hasn't even come out of the break yet. Like, what are we doing here, Juwan Jennings? This was a bad rep from you. And then Brock went off of it, and he takes a big shot. It was a bad look for 15.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right there. Not a good look for Juwan, especially when you've been sort of calf holding out for new contract, and you haven't been practicing, and you've got to win on his time because these guys are coming and they're bringing a lot of chaos. And your quarterback's got to be able to get rid of the ball, and then Brock gets planted. This is where he hurt that left shoulder. You can clearly see him driven to the turf on his left shoulder. So, so at that point now, we are moving forward. Everything you're going to see from this point on is post toe, is post shoulder. So that has to be taken into account as well.
Didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So here again, we're going to see Brock doing things. And this is, I want to show these two plays in succession because I do feel that there's a little bit with Brock on this of trying to get into Kyle's mind and trying to say, okay, I know I could have had this. I didn't take the shot. We still got a good game, but I know Kyle's coming back to a similar play because he saw that the shot was there, and so I need to hit it. So I think that's some of what's going on here. We're running a variation on what a lot of times we do is we'll line up a receiver on the inside, and when you run a streak down the middle of the field, it's a clearing route, and you then bring a Dover or deep in route in with it. It's called a dagger concept. This has been around the NFL for a long time. We're running a little variation here. We're going to take MVS, and we're going to run him from the opposite side down that hash, and then you have Jennings on this Dover route. And you're going to have McCaffrey. He's going to come out as a check down here. So Seattle is going to drop into their version of their quarter half. So they're going to have half field over here. They're going to run quarter, and then they'll have 4 underneath zones. And a lot of times this quarter over here is going to match deep in breaking routes. So they'll match these. And so what you're reading is really you're trying to clear this out, get these safeties out of here, and then hit this big deep in the intermediate area. And so it does mostly work. You're going to see MVS is running the safety off. You're going to see this is going. You got a safety backpedaling, and you got an underneath guy flat-footed. So what Brock's seeing, you can see him just starting to pull a windup here. He wants to take this shot. He wants to hit this throw. That's going to be that deep in. He probably is going to lay this out a little bit deeper so he can do that layered throw we've seen him do all the time over that underneath guy into that spot. And he sees it. He goes, okay, there's a tiny little window there. And then he pulls it down because he's got McCaffrey way out here, wide open. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to pull it down instead. And I'll check it down. And then McCaffrey goes and gets 29 yards. So this play has to be taken into context before the next play I'm going to show, which is actually on my next file here. So I have to load that one up.
Let me guess. It's going to be an interception.
Yes.
Ha-ha.
So now you're going to try and bring Christian McCaffrey on a play fake. Actually, they want to bring this on the other side. That is important. You're going to run. This is Jake Tonjes down the seam, and then you're going to run Juwan Jennings on this Dover deep in route. Okay, well, first, Seattle's going to end up bringing Julian Love on a run fit here on a blitz. Or no, excuse me, it's the linebacker. And Christian McCaffrey's got to come up and fill this. So now he's got no outlet underneath, for one. 2, he's looking at this and saying, okay, they're in their quarter half. He's going to see the 2 safeties. It looks the same. So he's going to say, if this safety turns and this safety turns, I'm going to have the same look. I'm going to have this Dover route in here. I'm going to have it. And so right here, Brock's hitting his back foot. That ball needs to be out. Note that Ernest Jones is at the 30-yard line. Brock has hit his back foot. He needs to be in his windup right now. Because then Juwan's going to come out here, and that ball is going to be between the hashes at about the 27, maybe the 25, where that goes, because you're clearing this out. And again, he saw the play before. I had it. I checked it down. He's thinking Kyle's coming back to that because he wants me to hit this throw. That's just my assumption, just thinking through of, them talking about, I understand when he calls this, and then he comes back to something, what he's trying to do and how he's seeing what they're doing. But Brock's late on the throw. So the ball, he's not in his windup right now. Now he's going to wait, take, hitch, and then he's going to throw, and he throws off his back foot. Ernest Jones is now at the 33. Or, excuse me, the 27. This ball needs to be way down here, and it's going to end up coming about here. And those two things are the difference. You allowed time for Ernest Jones to retreat. You also are throwing off your back foot. You don't have enough to get on the ball. And so now you have a pick. That's the difference. And I don't know if it is the not sure about the chemistry with him and Juwan Jennings, like we saw on the play with the shoulder. Are you getting there on my time? Do I need to see you open now before I'm throwing? Because Brock is holding on to that way too long. Like,
and he's kind of
back foot,
back.
boom.
He's going backwards too. He hits the top of his drop, and then he kind of hitches backwards a couple of times.
Yeah, those two hitches is the difference between a completed pass and an intercepted pass. And you're leaning back on your back foot. It's just, these are all things of like, I'm going to make this throw no matter what. And even then, it's still a fingertip interception by Ernest Jones. So all those things tell you if that ball is out on time and he's from a good base, that's a completion. But that's who Brock can be sometimes, is I see the window and I'm making this throw. Like, that window is there, so I'm going to make that throw. And that can be where it gets frustrating with Brock.
Yeah, that was the first interception. And at least I understand it a little more now after your breakdown. Like on Sunday, I was just furious, like hair on fire mad that would happen. But the problem with Brock that I'm realizing is that the same thing that makes him throw that ball up to Tondres to give him a shot to make the game-winning catch, the same thing that makes him throw these beautiful anticipation throws, are the same thing that leads to the interception. So, like, we can sit here and say, well, if he can just turn that off, and then he'd be really, really amazing. And it's like, it's the same thing that's causing him to do both things. You can't turn it off for one and leave it on for the others. Unfortunately, that's why both outcomes happen, is because of that instinct that he has. And I don't know that he'll ever get rid of it, to be honest with you. I think this is just who Brock is, and we just have to hope that it works out more times than it doesn't.
Yeah, and generally when you see when quarterbacks that operate like this, that high-level anticipation throwers, that when they see that window there, they're going for the bigger shot, not just checking it down all the time, the aggressive quarterbacks who are going to try and hit those throws. As when you are executing as an offense really well together, it can be nearly unstoppable. And we saw that in 2023. That the ceiling for you as an offensive unit as a whole is incredibly high. But it's the floor for frustration can be very, very low. Because he's not going to be a guy that's going to then run around and run a 30-yard run for a touchdown on this, or make these huge off-schedule plays. I don't know if it's more inconsistent or not. I think it's just a different kind of inconsistency that you see. That it's a little more based around how are you executing as a team, and he has to be on time. Everybody has to be on time. Which, I mean, that was Joe Montana. That was how Steve Young operated theirs. But we've also seen really good quarterbacks operate not on those kind of things and able to do things in other ways. But it's what causes that is what allows this. And this is, again, Brock at his best. This is a fourth down. I'm not sure what route on this route, because he ends up getting knocked down. So, like, that's why I don't know. Like, he gets about 4 or 5 steps out here, and then he gets knocked down. That's why I've drawn it the way I did. Ricky Pearsall's on a corner route. We have Juwan Jennings is on what's called a basic route, which is a 10 to 12-yard in route. And then on the backside, we have a spacing. So this is really, really high-level work here. Seattle is in man coverage. I think this is supposed to be a rub action out here is what they're going for. And so you see there's man coverage, and that's why Brock is looking this way. He says, okay, I got man coverage out here, and then we're going to see this happen. And so he says, okay, I'm moving off that. He looks to Juwan on the basic, and this lurk defender is going to squeeze that window. And he says, nope, I don't like that window. So he's worked through 1 to 2 to 3. And over here we have Luke Farrell and Chris McCaffrey on a spacing concept. So Luke Farrell's on a snag route or a sit route over here, and then McCaffrey's swing route into the flat. And he's going to work now to Farrell as the number 4, who sees this as man, and he's going to work away, and Brock's going to get in here and hit him in this window running away from man before McCaffrey's guy can close. I mean, it's a bang bang play, but that's what you had to have. Like, that was the route that was open, and so bang bang bang, work so quickly. If I just bring this back, watch Brock's head, and in the snap hero, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4, and he gets to his fourth read. Like, that's one great job by the offensive line to give him that kind of time, and that's a really impressive to get to your fourth read and stay composed on fourth down.
So this is interesting because the play that's on the screen right now is the other fourth down, right? This is the pass to McCaffrey.
Yeah.
So on this fourth down that you have up now, I loved this design because it was you were going to your best guy. You were putting him in a very easy position to succeed, and it was an easy throw and catch for Brock, and I loved it. But that previous fourth down that you showed, it's a 7-step drop for Brock Purdy, and he's got to go through 4 receivers before he finds a guy, and he has to make a really good throw in a really tight window to be able to convert it. And it's like, damn, man, couldn't we have made it a little easier for Brock Purdy? Like, this is what I want to see on fourth down. Like, this is your go-to. Like, maybe this was like a 2-point conversion play or something, but like, this was so much easier than the one you just showed.
That's also why Mac McDonald got hired as Seattle's defensive coordinator, to make life hard. So there's some reasons too why that worked out. Seattle had been running a lot of zone before that, and then they were running man on that one, and they're taking away the middle of the field. Now they're going to try and bait a throw over the middle. So this is a Mike McDonald special here. They're going to bring this heavy pressure look up front, and they're going to bring extra guys, right? So they're going to bring a slot off the edge, and they're going to make this look like we're coming with an all-out blitz, all-out zero blitz. And quarterbacks are taught against zero blitz, attack the middle of the field because it's right there. It's right there. Quick hitters. You got to have staggered depth over here. So you're trying to get quick hitters. So what Mike McDonald does is this is actually only a 4-man rush. He's going to run man coverage, and then he's going to drop his defensive tackles into a hook zone. So you get both these big men, defensive tackles, just drop right in that space and just become window eaters. They don't even have to cover a guy. They're a massive body in the way of a throw. And so they're trying to get you to throw over the middle, and we have a double slant plus flat on here, kind of lion and dragon mixed together, where you have 2 slants and then an in, and Brock's going to first see this drop of the defensive tackles and know I immediately got McCaffrey through this interference on the out because that safety's on him, and he's going to have to work over the top. He can't work through all this traffic. I know I'm getting really, really clustered here. And Seattle actually does a good job of handing off the numbering here. The safety who was on McCaffrey, he picks up the first inside. You're going to have the corner in bump. He's going to lock, and then you're going to have this over the top onto McCaffrey, and it's that A-plus anticipation that gets the ball out. He's throwing it already, and this corner doesn't have space to go get it. And so it looks just like, man, pitch and catch. But when your quarterback is able to identify things, he really, based upon the pre-snap look, he should have tried to hit MVS on the slant or Ricky Pearsall on the slant. Based upon this look that you think you're getting an all-out pressure, safety's off back. They're baiting you on this, that this is going to be right there. That's what they want you to think. And to be able to see it, pull it out, say, nope, I'm gonna get it out to Christian McCaffrey. That's awesome, because that's really, McCaffrey is his number 3 on that play, and he streamlines it to be number 1 at the snap, if that makes sense. So it looks like number 1, but he's immediately going to number 3 because he already takes 1 and 2 away.
I'm just saying, Brock, if it's fourth down and I think, would I rather go to MVS or Christian McCaffrey? I'll throw it to 23. Always. It's like, sorry, MVS. I don't care if you were no. Like Christian McCaffrey out in the flat, quick pass. I'm going there. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it very well can be that.
It worked out.
Brock won't tell us. Now, this is a play I saw a lot of people get real harsh on Brock about, weenie arm. Look, Brock has made this far hash out route throw so many times. I don't think this is an arm strength issue. I think it's an issue that he thinks the Seattle defenders are in a little bit better position than they are. So Ricky's running what's called a pile route. So he's going to break at 6 and roll to 10 right at the goal line, because Brock's in his windup. And what I think, again, this is just my speculation, because I've seen him put a little bit more on these throws. My thought is that he thinks if I put this on a line, this guy's going to undercut that, and it might get batted down by this guy. I think he's looking at, if I make this as a straight line throw, that these guys are going to be in the way. And so he's trying to make a layered throw over those guys to the sideline. That's what I think is happening here, because Brock clearly doesn't put everything he's got on this throw. He's trying to touch it out there, and it just gives I think it's that's not Rico, it's the other safety. It gives him a little bit, just enough time to go get that ball. That's another one where Brock, I'd like to see you just don't finesse it, just lay it out there. Like don't put all that on Ricky to win and get that kind of separation all the time. Like just make the throw hard.
Just the fingernail. That's all. Like, we're criticizing it, and it was just that little bit. But sometimes that little bit is the difference, and they end up not scoring anything on that drive, I believe, right? Because or did they get the field goal? I can't remember now. Off the top of my head.
They unfortunately had the field goal blocked.
Right, that's what it was. Yeah,
on that one.
So that's and that's a huge swing, obviously. So yeah, that one was unfortunate. Luckily, we all know how it turned out, but yeah, that stinks.
Yeah, that would be one that if the game doesn't turn out, you're going to look back on and say, So, all right. So now we're going to get to the second pick. This is Seattle. Good job by them. They're showing kind of a 2-zone, 2-man look, possibly. You got the outside guys up in bump. You're not really aligned in man coverage. You kind of are with your linebackers. You're showing maybe 2-man. So that's 2 deep safeties with man coverage underneath. We're running, this is Ryder or Strider. I can't remember exactly which one it is. I think Strider is just Ryder to the strong side. But that you're coming with this Ryder, and so you get it's called a deep through route. So it's going to take the top off the defense. Then you have a high crossing route by Ricky Pearsall. And Seattle at the snap is going to end up rotating this, and they're going to drop into cover 1 man. So they're going to bring a safety down here on the tight end. They're going to drop a linebacker into a zone hook. Actually, it's this guy. And then they're going to end up manning up everybody else. So this is cover 1 man, and Brock's going to read that. And the things that you make Brock so great, you love, this is where it can cause issues. So this is at the moment where he is just planting his foot to wind up. This is Ricky Pearsall. He's going to try and make this throw out here. If I'm looking at this snapshot, I have no problem with this decision. As far as, you're not throwing into triple coverage. I know everybody, the things we saw on the broadcast, this looked really bad when the ball got there. But you have you have MVS trying to drive this safety off, and he's got a guy in man. These guys are in man coverage on a little swing pass look. You have Ricky one-on-one. You're going to believe in Ricky. You're going to say, I'm going to go put this ball out there, because at worst, Ricky's going to make this OPI. That's what Kyle has taught him to do. That's what he is wants to do. But the issue I have here is that clearly these guys have no concern about the underneath guys that they're in man coverage on, because this safety has no concern about MVS. He's going to attack the high crosser. The guy on Tonjes in man is going to bail off, and I believe this corner is going to even turn off of MVS and go attack this. And then you have Ricky's guy, and he's going to go make the pick. I do question everybody else, and I say, why is it that all of these guys are bailing off of their men to go attack this ball? Because everybody believes it's going to Ricky. That's a problem. And so, yes, at the catch point, this looks really bad. At the throw, I think I would rather say, okay, I don't love this separation. Brock, go get what you can with your legs. But he's also got a hurt toe. So I don't know if that comes into play here.
Well, but here's the thing, right? Throw it to the guy in the flat, run it, or throw it away. You don't have to just chuck the ball in the air and be like, well, I'm kind of banged up and this is sort of open, so let's just throw it and see what happens. That's my biggest source of frustration with Brock Purdy is that he never just lives to play another down. It's not in him. He doesn't do it. Even if he does throw the ball away, he waits, and then throws it away and usually takes a big hit. Like he never just snaps the ball, goes through his reads and says, screw it, not here. I'm taking off or I'm throwing it away. And instead he puts the ball in harm's way. And of course, everybody goes to Ricky Pearsall. Who the hell else was he going to throw it to? Jake Tonges? I mean, come on.
Yeah. And so if we look at like the things that Tom Brady, how many times did you see Tom Brady snap the ball and then just give it up, like collapse on the ground and say, nope, we didn't win. My offensive line didn't win. I'm not taking a big hit. That's on you guys. That's where Brock has to learn in the quarter. If you're going to be this kind of quarterback, you have to be able to do those kinds of things as well. Like you have to be able to say no when to just abort the play and say, all right, either they got us or our guy screwed up and that's on you guys.
Yep.
Like I'm not going to just bail you guys out every time or try and put the ball in harm's way, and then our defense is in a bind at that point. So yeah, those are the things that make you just again pull your hair out with Brock. But then you get this on the game-winning drive. You get where Brock is at his best, and Seattle here they're going to show this shell look pre-snap, and we're running what's called a train route. With Ricky Pearsall, he's going to come, sit down, and then he's going to take off down the sideline. And Seattle, at the snap, you're going to see a safety drop. They're going to bring a safety back. This is cover 3 zone. And these outside corners are going to squat a little bit. And so Brock pumps, gets this going, and you get it down here. And this is as good of a throw as you can ask for. Ricky, it hits him in stride right down the sideline, the throw that we all want to see quarterbacks make. That we were driven nuts for years that we never hit the sideline throws deep down the sideline. You get it there. Yeah, it could have been played better by Rick Woolen, but guess what? He probably knows Rick Woolen's going to misjudge that in the air. You take that shot and you go for it. That's why you do run a double move on Rick Woolen. So you get it there.
He put everything, like he knew he was going to that throw. Because if you look, he takes like 2 steps into it before he lets it go. Like he was going to Ricky. They talked about on the sideline. Pearsall said we can hit him with a double move because they're playing the comeback. And he's like, it was clearly the plan from the start. And Brock did exactly what he needed to put the ball exactly where he needed to put it. Massive throw in the biggest spot in the game.
Yeah. And then again, coming back like 2 plays later, Brock at his best. Kyle talked about this. He said there's a across-the-board read, and he was able to get there to it. This is a huge first down to Jake Tonges, where we're trying to run what's called a choice concept to Christian McCaffrey. So MVS is going to run a corner route, and then Christian McCaffrey is going to run a choice route. That's our choice concept. And on the other side, we have what's called plaster concept. So you're going to run plaster clear is what this is called. And then you're going to run a little comeback on the outside. And then Jake Tonges is going to be on a stick China. So he's going to run this like a stick route, and a China is returning back in. Return route is an in-breaking route that returns outside. So that's just a little thing on there. When I say some of these terms, people sometimes get lost. China just means an out-breaking route that returns in. Return route is an in-breaking route that returns out. And so you're running a stick China here. So first thing Brock's going to do is he's going to read this 1 to 2 on the outside, and then you come back and it's 3 and 4. Sometimes it's listed as 1 and 1. That's more pick a side. So Seattle is, again, they're showing this too high. We're going to see post snap. They drop, and so this safety is coming down on Jake Tonges. And they're going to be in single man. So you got a lurk defender here. You're in man on Christian McCaffrey, man on MVS, deep safety. And so as Brock drops back, he sees this rotation of the safeties. He's going to work to the choice side. And he's going to see, okay, they've gone over because his lurk defender's inside. So they're essentially bracketing McCaffrey here. So you got MVS on his corner and you got McCaffrey on his choice, and he's bracketed. So he's gone from 1 to 2. and that's not there. So then he works to the other side, and he's going to work 3 here to 4 on Tonjes, where the safety had to work through this traffic. He's breaking on Tonjes as the stick, but it's a stick China. It's going to break back in, and he makes the throw right as the pressure gets there. Again, that's Brock working at his best, working across the board on a full field read. This is full field read at its finest. In the biggest moment of the game, able to process, see what he's doing quickly, move through, throw with accuracy while taking a hit. Should have been maybe roughing the passer because he got hit below the waist as he threw. But that's what it is.
Full field read with Brock Purdy with a messed up toe, with a messed up shoulder in crunch time when you're losing. And he makes a good enough throw to Tonjes. And by the way, credit to Jake Tonjes for not realizing he wasn't touched. And he just crawls and, scoots forward on the ground like a 1-year-old baby, getting the extra couple yards for the first down. I loved that. But yeah, that's Brock Purdy doing what he does best. Quick processing, putting on a guy that deserves the ball because he's open, and then moving the chains.
100%. And just a quick note here to the Notorious GAV. That is on my weekly breakdown on my channel. I talk about the juice rail route. I didn't include that one here because that was not as much Brock. He did what Kyle wanted him to do. That was on more, I thought, benefit to Kyle because that was a variation of an exact same play we ran against Seattle our first meeting last year. They had a variation and beat them the exact same way, which is just, amazing to watch when he can use up formations and personnel to change up to run the exact same play and beat them the exact same way against the exact same coverage. That's when I go, there you go, Kyle. Great, good job. That's why we believe in you. But here's the game-winning touchdown. They're trying to work a spacing concept to Christian McCaffrey. So McCaffrey is the primary here. They're trying to get some man coverage here and work an interference over. Do some blue. Work some interference over here with McCaffrey's man for a quick hitter. And Seattle ends up covering this really well. They end up, again, MVS, you can see him trying to make the interference, and he can't. That's on him. That's all on Valdez-Scantling. He's got to do a better job of getting in that way and making this a clear, easy walk-in touchdown. You've got, man, you got the look. It wasn't there. So Brock has to end up pulling this down because these are not there. And I will say kudos to Brock. He threw a pick on this same concept against the Chiefs last year because he had this look and he said, I'm just throwing it in here anyways. And so he didn't. So kudos to Brock for that.
Did you notice, watch McCaffrey. He goes out of bounds and then he signals to Brock that he went out of bounds and he puts his arms out and like, don't throw me the ball. And then he just backs up and stays out of bounds. You can see it right there. Nope, don't throw to me. And then Brock looks off of him and rolls to the right.
Yep, and then he just backs himself right off the field. Huge heads up by McCaffrey on that because, Brock's looking way out here like, oh, can I get you? And he says, no. Oh,
literally, don't throw me the ball.
Yeah, no, don't throw me the ball. And I will say, after watching the tape and seeing this is the moment where Brock is deciding to throw the ball, that I don't feel as bad about this because he sees Jake Tonjes has leverage to the back corner of the end zone. And that's where he tries to put the ball. So, he may not have the arm to, on the run, throw it and beat them there because now you see that the ball's been thrown. So, again, when I see that, I go, okay, I don't think he was quite as reckless as I thought he was because I didn't see that. What I saw on the broadcast was this moment, right?
Right. When he's boxed out, essentially, and the defender is between Tonjes and Purdy.
Yeah, and you go, that was the moment that I think all of our hearts jumped for a skip. And great job by Tonjes to go work, back in there. I think Purdy would have just preferred him to stop and box Rick Woolen out in that moment because he's going to roll out and he's going to see him. Okay, I got my guy. There's a lane. If we paused it here and Brock didn't make this throw, you know what would happen? Everybody would screenshot this moment and say, Brock had him in the back of the end zone. Why didn't he throw the ball? That's what would happen. And
Instead, we screenshot the moment after when the defender's in between, and we
Right.
say, "What was he doing throwing the ball?"
And that is why JT O'Sullivan always says, don't screenshot the QB. Everything always has to be put in context. And you have to look, like I always go back to what was the snapshot that the quarterback saw right before he started his windup, not when he's in his windup, because that was after the decision has been made. Before everything leading up to the start of the windup, what did they see? That tells you why the decision was made, and we always have to keep that into context.
That is why you need to like this video, subscribe to the channel for film breakdowns like this. If you want even more detailed film breakdowns and many more film breakdowns, subscribe to Johnny's channel. Just search Johnny Dell Football Academy. It comes right up. You can get everything you want, including like that one commenter asked for, the juice rail route. That would be in there as well. Johnny, thank you as always. You made us better, smarter fans.
We're trying. That's what we try and do.
We'll brace for Mac Jones this week. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody.